Bill Froug stayed with the CBS Radio Workshop until 1957. Afterwards, Antony Ellis took over Hollywood's production. Paul Roberts was the man in New York. There were many high spots over the next 2 seasons. Shakespeare was interviewed. Stan Freberg gave an analysis of satire. The microphone visited both inner and outer space, going on journeys to Venus, while Elliott Lewis offered a show about the nightmares of a man in a coma.
CBS Radio presents the CBS Radio Workshop, dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind.
This is Elliott Lewis. I believe there's a place for experimental drama in radio. CBS Radio also believes this, hence the Radio Workshop. The play you're going to hear is such an experiment. It's debatable whether it's too personal an experience. I don't think it is, and CBS Radio has been kind enough to give me the time to find out. Some of you may be offended, some revolted, some excited by the sharing of this experience. At all events, since it is an experiment, and since we'll be dealing with those strange depths in a man's mind called his subconscious, we ask your attention. The play is called Nightmare.
Are you all right? Johnny? Johnny?
Tired. I'm so tired.
Well, what was it? Are you all right?
Fine. Just felt a little sick. Tired.
I'll call Dr.
Oh,
Rogers.
it's late. Let the poor man sleep. Call him in the morning if I don't feel better.
You sure?
Sure. Just want to sleep.
If you're in creative control, you have to be in creative control. Whatever happened, I'm pleased that the Sears thing worked. But my letter of agreement said I was in complete and absolute creative control of everything. I got a note from them once, and they said, kill this script. One note happened once. And I called them back and said, you can't say kill this script. You have to tell me why. You know, this is not something that we just make up. You can't work that way. So at a meeting, I explained to them that there are only really 3 precious things in that business. And the first was the idea, and the second was time, and the third was money. And if they had a script there, and they said, kill this script, they weren't observing any of the 3 things. There was some reason. There's nothing wrong with tearing down a fence. But the wise man will first inquire why it was put up, because it may be that there's no longer a reason for the fence. But it may also be, if you don't ask the question, that you're letting loose a bunch of saber-toothed tigers, you know. So ask the question.
On Sunday, September 22nd, 1957, with no national sponsorship forthcoming, the CBS Radio Workshop went off the air with a play called Young Man Axelrod. The following week, Indictment replaced the 4:05 p.m. broadcast, closing down the workshop forever.
And I didn't want to go on television, but I knew my job was vanishing. But I really knew it was vanishing after I left and took a job at Screen Gems as a writer-producer. They never replaced me. I was the last vice president of CBS Radio.
Well, we've come to the end of the CBS Radio Workshop, and we've spent the past 3 episodes largely at CBS, but that's about to change.
Monitor. 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 2000 hours Greenwich Mean Time. This is Monitor, reporting the nation and the world. The combined radio and television networks of the National Broadcasting Company bring you the premiere broadcast of Monitor, the new NBC radio service originating from NBC's Electronic Communication Center, Radio Central, New York. Now, to introduce Monitor to America, here is the president of the National Broadcasting Company, Mr. Sylvester L. Weaver.
Next time on Breaking Walls, it's June of 1955, and NBC's president, Pat Weaver, is about to rebrand the weekend format.
This is a preview, which will be seen on television for the next hour, and it'll be heard on radio until midnight tonight, New York time.
Weaver felt that broadcasting could educate as well as entertain, especially in the vignette form. He'll prove this concept with one of the most experimental ideas in radio history, filling the air with news, actualities, remotes, comedy, and variety. It was a concept so successful that the show remained on the air in some form or fashion until 1974. It was called Monitor, and we'll find out how it came to be.
Where the items are as long as they need to be or as short. Well, over a weekend, there'll be a half 100 people serving you from Radio Central here. And among them, and here today for you to meet, are Dave Garroway and Bob and Ray, Morgan Beatty, Walter Kiernan, Clifton Fadiman, Ben Grauer, and many, many others.
The reading material used in today's episode was On the Air by John Dunning, as well as articles from Broadcasting Magazine and the New York Daily News. On the interview front, Lillian Baeff, Don Diamond, John Daner, Lawrence Dobkin, Bill Froug, Jack Johnstone, Byron Kane, Elliott Lewis, and Peggy Weber were with Spurvac. For more information, go to spurvac.com. Norman Corwin, Virginia Gregg, Carlton E. Morse, Alan Reed, and Russell Thorson spoke with Chuck Shaden. Hear their full chats at speakingofradio.com. Bill Robeson spoke with Dick Bertel and Ed Corcoran for WTIC's The Golden Age of Radio. Hear this full interview at goldenage-wtic.org. William Paley spoke while receiving a citation in November of 1958. And Ray Bradbury was interviewed by Jerry Hendiges in October of 1976.
A monitor transmitters aboard.
Good enough. What about entertainment?
Well, Art Van Dam Quintet.
Selected music featured in today's episode was My Prayer by the Platters, The Poor People of Paris by Nelson Riddle, and The Big Heist by Barney Kessel.
Well, we have yourself, sir.
Well, now let's steady. Let's talk about what we've really got.
Well, not to mention President Pusey of Harvard and...
Subscribe to Burning Gotham, the new audio drama set in 1835 New York City. It will be available everywhere you get your podcasts and at burninggotham.com.
And here are those headlines. From Bonn, West German Chancellor Adenauer is flying to...
Special thank you to Ted Davenport and Jerry Hendiges, two radio show collectors who helped supply material for this episode. They're who the large retailers go to. For Ted, go to radiomemories.com. And for Jerry, please visit otrsite.com.
From Sumter, South Carolina, the Ku Klux Klan is out of hiding.
I'd also like to thank Walden Hughes and John and Larry Gassman of Spurvac. Listen to their shows on the Yesterday USA Radio Network.
85 dead in the crash of the sports car race at Le Mans, about 100 miles southwest of Paris.
Breaking Walls, episode 116, will focus on the launch of NBC's Monitor in June of 1955. We'll hear explanations, stories, and show clips from this groundbreaking radio experiment. This episode will be available beginning June 1st, 2021, everywhere you get your podcasts and at thewallbreakers.com. In the meantime, give Breaking Walls a quick rating on whatever platform you listen, especially iTunes. You can also join the Breaking Walls Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/thewallbreakers. And support this show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/thewallbreakers. So, until June 1st, my name is James Scully. This has been Breaking Walls episode 115, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you very much.
Which many, many hours of exciting racing will, I do not think, dispel. This is Raymond Baxter in Le Mans.
That was Raymond Baxter of the BBC at Le Mans, a moment after the tragedy occurred this weekend. That was almost, I suppose, 20 hours ago. It's now just past 4 o'clock in New York City. Hello, Paris. Hello, Frank. Bergholzer.
Hello, Jim Fleming.
What's the latest toll in this tragedy at Le Mans?
The latest toll, not completely accurate, but the best we can get from the reports gathered from various hospitals.